The wind howled through the trees, its icy fingers clawing at the edges of the darkened sky. The moon hung low, casting long shadows that seemed to creep and stretch across the ground. On this night, the air felt heavier, thick with an unsettling presence. It was the kind of night when the hairs on the back of your neck prickled, when every creak of wood or rustle of the leaves made your heart race faster. As the clock struck midnight, a flicker of color appeared on the horizon, a distant glow like a distant firework, at first subtle, then growing larger and larger. A carnival. But no one remembered hearing about it. No advertisements, no word of mouth, just lights that flickered in the distance, beckoning like an irresistible force. Lucy, a young woman in her 20s, was the first to notice it. She had been driving through the woods on her way home, lost in thought when she saw it. At first, she thought it was a mirage, an illusion caused by the darkness and her own tired eyes. But as she drove closer, it became clear. A carnival had sprung up overnight, nested between the dense trees, its bright lights casting eerie shadows. She stopped her car at the entrance, her curiosity outweighing her better judgment. There was no one around, not a soul in sight, just the colorful lights and the music that seemed to hum in the air. "Well, this is strange," Lucy whispered to herself, stepping out of the car and walking towards the gates. As she approached, she noticed the carnival sign. "The Realms of Fear," it read in bold crimson letters, the words dripping as though they were painted in blood. Lucy felt an unease settle in her chest, but the temptation to see what lay beyond the gates was too great. She pushed them open and entered, the sound of the carnival's music growing louder as she stepped further inside. The atmosphere shifted immediately, as if the air itself had changed. The music was no longer a cheerful tune. It was slow and dissonant, a haunting melody that seemed to reach into her soul. The lights flickered, casting twisted shadows on the ground, and the distant sound of children's laughter echoed eerily through the air. She wasn't alone. At the center of the carnival stood a man, tall and thin, wearing a tattered black suit. His face was pale, his eyes sunken in their sockets, and his lips curled into a smile that didn't reach his cold eyes. His voice was low and raspy when he spoke. "Welcome, my dear. Welcome to the Realm of Fears." Lucy froze, her heart hammering inside her chest. She opened her mouth to speak but found that no words would come. "I know your name," the man continued. "You've been looking for something, haven't you?" Lucy tried to step back, but her legs felt as though they were made of stone. She could hear her breath quicken, a cold sweat breaking out on her skin. "Don't worry," the man said, his voice laced with a twisted kindness. "Everyone who enters here has a choice. You can stay, or you can face your deepest fear. But remember, there's always a price to pay." Suddenly, the carnival's lights dimmed, and the world around her twisted. The man was gone, and Lucy found herself standing in front of a carousel. Its horses strangely lifelike, their eyes hollow and staring. As she approached it, one of the horses jerked its head towards her, its mouth opening in a grotesque, silent scream. Then, before she could react, she heard a voice behind her. "Lucy, come with us. Come and see the rest of the carnival." It was Mark, a friend she had known for years. His voice sounded distant, muffled, as if he were far away. Lucy spun around to find him standing there, his eyes wide with fear. But it wasn't Mark anymore. It was something else, wearing his skin. "Mark?" she whispered, her voice trembling. The creature, now with an unsettling grin, stepped closer. "I'm here to show you your worst fear." Before Lucy could respond, the air around her seemed to shift again, pulling her in all directions. She was suddenly no longer in front of the carousel, but in a strange maze of mirrors, each one reflecting her worst nightmares. The faces of her loved ones twisted in agony, the shadows growing taller and darker. The mirrors distorted everything, trapping her in a maze of fear. Panic surged through Lucy as she raced through the labyrinth of glass, her breath coming in ragged gasps. She could hear the sound of footsteps behind her, but when she turned to look, no one was there. Every time she turned a corner, she saw more reflections, her own terrified face staring back at her, eyes wide with dread. Then she heard it again, the voice of the man from earlier. "You're not alone, Lucy. Everyone in this carnival is here because of their fear, and now you're one of them. Welcome to the show." Lucy stumbled, her hands reaching out to steady herself against the walls, but they were cold, slick with something wet, something that didn't feel like glass at all. Suddenly, the maze of mirrors opened into an arena, and there, standing before her, were all the people who had entered the carnival before her. Their faces were twisted in horror, trapped in the very attractions they had come to see. They were now exhibits, the entertainment. Their bodies were frozen in time, their expressions locked in terror. "Help us," one of them screamed, but Lucy couldn't move. The man's words echoed in her mind. "There's always a price." The lights dimmed again, and a spotlight shone directly on Lucy. "You are the new attraction, Lucy," the voice called out. "You'll stay here forever with the rest of the fear." The realization hit her like a bolt of lightning. She was trapped in a twisted, unending carnival, just another victim of the realm of fears. The fear that had brought her here would now keep her there forever. As the last of the screams faded into the distance, Lucy felt the cold, the darkness, and the twisted carnival music consumed her. The game had ended, and she was the prize.